Okay. Sorry about that. I think the stream ended for some reason. It's kind of weird. Um, Let me just wait for this to come back up on Twitch. Okay, we're back. Okay, that was weird. Um, okay, so let's kind of try to go back into what we were talking about here. Um, so yeah, okay, so let's go back. So I believe that we were talking about whether um we were gonna like for the gameplay, we would either make the game about what it's like to be in the head of a person of with ADHD, like that's the whole crux of the game, that's the whole idea. Um, or it could be that you have advantage if you have ADHD. I definitely think that this one is way harder to accomplish because like let's think about it, right? Like what really means like what would it like what in our world today really gives you an advantage if you have ADHD, right? Because I know like a lot of people like to think about oh like hey ADHD can be a superpower. And I mean I do believe that to a certain extent, but it still doesn't mean that it still doesn't mean that it won't be hard to I'm just trying to pull up the chat here just to make sure I can see. My multi chat's kind of messed up for some reason. Okay. It's still going to be hard to like make that into reality, especially because I don't really see I don't really see in our society like something being advantageous to ADHD people. So it would be really cool to make that work, but I just don't think it's as simple as um as you would think. Um but okay, let's see here. Um, so I think the route I do want to go with is to make the game like give the perspective of how it is to be in the head of a person with ADHD, just in terms of like the pure mess that it can be sometimes, and and just the chaos that it is, right? But like we were saying before, we do want to we do want to make sure the game isn't too chaotic, because that could just diminish the overall like playability of the game, or like it could just make it not fun at all, right? Um, Also, I guess some things to consider is that essentially for me, I am really making this project, this game project, mostly for the purpose of making a project because I haven't been really working on any coding as of recently, but I do want to get into something so I'm not stuck. And a game is just something I've never worked with like at all. Like I haven't even made like I don't know Pong or something, right? I have no idea. Like I barely know what a game engine is, to be quite honest. But I still think that'll be pretty cool. So yeah. Um, so let's think about some other possible issues, right? So maybe in if I'm really gonna keep this like low profile, um, then I don't really have to worry about I don't know um, like rights issues with like music or with uh like content. Like for example, we were using the example of Pokemon before, um, and And Nintendo, man, is complicated when it comes to using their content. They do not like that. They really just go after everyone. Um, but yeah. But if I'm really just gonna keep this low profile, I don't think it's really gonna matter that much. I mean, Maybe not use anything with Nintendo still, but um, but yeah, but I think we should be fine. However, if we do, if the plan does end up being, um, if the um, if the plan does end up being like, oh, I want to potentially put this game on Steam or something, right? In the Steam store, so we can look up, and then once we look up the game, hey, the game is there on Steam, and that would be pretty cool. I think that would be pretty sick. It's definitely to like show friends for career wise. I think all of that would be pretty cool to do. But yeah, but we could think about it. Actually, now that we're talking about it, kind of going off course here for a second, does a game called Focus exist? There is a game called Focus. What is this game about? This game, it's pretty low. There's no user reviews. It's a pretty simple game. It's kind of like a platformer game, pretty much, right? Isn't that what it is? Action roguelike. Interesting. Oh yeah, that is another thing that I kind of wanted to make the game, like one of the genres I wanted to make the game, right? So, um, genre for game. I kind of wanted to make the game a roguelike. And the way I would do that is right, like going back to the idea of the counter. Um, I wanted to make it so that once the counter hits 0, and if you haven't completed a certain amount of main objectives, you gotta start over, like all the way again. Um, and that's just yeah. I think that would be pretty cool. I think that's cool because that's something I like. Like I really like roguelike games. Like I've been playing a lot. I've been playing like games like Balatro, and I've been playing like games like Slay the Spire, that I think are pretty interesting. Balatro really caught me, and Slay the Spire recently as well. I still haven't beaten Slay the Spire yet. Balatro I've beaten a few times now. Um, I haven't got to like those crazy numbers in Balatro, but I still think that but I still like played quite a bit. And I think Balatro is like, to me, it's probably the best game this year. To be fair, I have not played Black Myth Wukong. So I know like there was like a whole thing with the Game Awards and everything because of the game they chose, which whatever, right? I mean, people are gonna choose whatever they want. I guess it doesn't really matter, but or like the game reviewers or whatever they're called. Yeah, but yeah. So going back to what we were talking about before, so we have focus, and then so this game it is pretty like low key enough to like I don't think it really matters if we put it the same name, right? Okay, there is one review, and someone just saying that the game is a scam. Yeah. Um, yeah, I don't think it's really gonna matter. But yeah, I think that so for the in terms of the name of the game, one of the names I wanted to do was Focus. I guess another I didn't want to make it like I didn't want to make the name of the game like, oh, ADHD. Like I think that's too I don't think it's interesting enough. I think Focus is. I like Focus because it's just a simple name that can be like, that can just bring the idea of the game across. Um, um, I guess I don't have anything in mind other than that right now for the names. But if something comes up, we can write it down, right? So the genre for the game is it'll be a roguelike. So I do think I want to make this a single player game. And this isn't concrete. So maybe it could be a multiplayer game in some way, right? But I think just for ease of like making my first game, I think I'll keep it as a single player. Um, and yeah. Yeah, I think I'm gonna make it single player just because it is the first game that I'm making. Obviously, like if I start making the game and I notice that it is feasible to make it multiplayer, um, then maybe we could possibly make it multiplayer. But I still got to think about like how I would do that, right? Like, yeah, I don't know. I'm not sure. Um, But yeah, I mean, something that I've thought about as well that would kind of like add to like the chaos element to it, the game, and bring more content to it, is that something that we can do is that something that that I thought of is like, okay, let's say we have the game, and then we have save states for the game, right? And then in these save states, it'll save the past attempts that you've had trying to win the game, and then there are the current attempts, whatever, right? Even if if you lost, that'll be in your save state, right? And what you could do is you could have friends in the game, and with these friends, you can like the save states will be shared in a certain way. So let's say for these side panels or whatever, it could be like attempts that your friends played, right? Or if it's just single player, it could be either random, like some random simple gameplay just to take away your attention, or it could be like previous games that you've played, just playing on the side, right? Now, I guess the issue with that would be like that maybe the save states would start to be too big, but obviously we could just limit, the amount that we save for each save state. Um, and yeah, I guess yeah, something like that. Um, and then I guess it's not really a party game for the going back to the genre. It's not really a party game per se because it's not multiplayer. It's more of like what is well, that's a party game. So what is that one game where it's like, oh yeah, Pummel Party, right? So Pummel Party, let's look it up in the store, right? Pummel Party is basically a party game. I'm pretty sure. So multiplayer, funny online, co-op, four-player local. Yeah, so I mean, it's pretty much a party game. All right. So let's see. These are all the genres, right? So single player online, shared, split screen, um, da 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 da. Yeah. Okay. This is just the things that well, genre actually says just action, casual, indie, but okay. Okay, I guess. Let me go back. What is this game right here? Mini game madness. So what is this, right? And something that would be cool is that if you guys do have like any examples for me of games that are based on mini games, like it's just a bunch of mini games, and I know there's a lot of those, right? Like we were talking about, there's Pummel Party. There's apparently this game that I've never heard of, Minigame Madness. There's games like Jack in the Box. Oh, Jack in the Box is a good example, right? So Jack in the Box, and most like mini game based games. Oh shit, hold on. What is the? I think it's Jack in the Box that it's called, right? Is it not? No. No. What is it called? What is that game called? Is it not Jack in the Box? What's that game called? That it's like. I think it's Jack something. I don't think I have it. Um. Yeah, I'm not sure. But I know it has like that draw. Like it has Drawful. I do have this game. So it has Drawful as one of the games, I think. And like these games are good. Jackbox, that's what it's called. Here we go. Jackbox, right? So then Jackbox has like a bunch of mini games, right? So if you guys like have examples like of games like these, which where the game is just a bunch of mini games, I would appreciate it if you either put it in chat or in a comment section, um, because it would give me some ideas for mini games. Obviously, I'm not like gonna copy paste them, but it'll still give me like, because again, the mini games are a part of the game and they should be fun to a certain extent, but they're not like the main thing, right? We gotta still remember that the main thing about this game is to represent, is like to make the player understand like kind of how it is to have ADHD, right? Um, but yeah, so it's not, so I guess it's like, so I guess we could call it mini game based or something like that. I'm not really sure like how I would name this. I don't even think casual entity strategy. Is it strategy? I mean, sure, I guess. Um yeah. Anyway, Jack in the Box is really fun by the way, but yeah. Um but yeah. I guess something else that you can do that's not necessarily multiplayer, but it's also like there's an online element to it is you could, what is it called? You could make it so that you can watch your friends' runs on like you can watch your friends run. So let's say you add a friend in the game, you can go into one of their runs and watch it and see what they did. Might just be like a little feature that's interesting, but again, it would be kind of complicated just because like I would probably have to have like a server of sorts that'll save every save state for everyone, right? Obviously, if we're thinking like big, then it's just too much, right? I mean, it's you know I don't want to make the project too big. I think for some of the stuff that we have right now, I think it's feasible. Maybe besides like the incorporating the AI portion of it and the yeah, that's pretty much about it. And I mean, obviously, making like the multiple mini games would be complicated. Um, Although I do want to make this like a learning experience for me, for myself, I don't think I'm gonna mind using like already existing engines, right? So like, so Jackbox. So what is Jackbox made in, right? What is Jackbox made in? Or what game engine is Jackbox made in? Jackbox. Right, so it's probably multiple, I'm assuming, right? How are Jackbox game made? So they have a central server, they run everything through. Every user device connects to the central server. And if breakdown of exposed Jackbox. Here's WebSockets. Da, 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 da. But I kind of want to know like. So let's see if they know. Primarily develop, yeah, Unity. So as are most games, right? So most games are going to be developed in Unity, and I don't think. I mean, I've never used Unity, so I don't have the single clue how to use it. But I think and for me, for like the intent of this project for me, it's not. I mean, not only am I making something that I think is would be a really cool idea, but I also am making the project because I want to learn and have like some experiences under my belt, right? In terms of projects, and considering that, I do want to like, I guess code on my own as much as possible. I don't know if that means making my own game engine or just making everything from scratch, but I want to be able to get as much experience as possible. But and the reason I'm saying all this is because my fear, or my or the thing that kind of pulls me back a little bit, is that um, if I do start making a bunch of mini games for this overarching game, that might take really long. Because for people that have never made a game ever, it's like making Pong alone probably takes like a little bit of time. Not much time, but probably a little bit of time, right? So that's the only thing that kind of convinces me of making something that of like using like an already existing game engine, or something that makes life a little bit easier, I guess. And yeah, and apart from like other stuff, like for example, like I have to grab music, I have to grab some sort of graphics, I have to grab this or that, or and so yeah, that's the only thing that I guess is a little complicated. But yeah, but but yeah. Anyway, so but yeah, yeah. I guess we don't have much people here right now. I can go back and forth with ideas. Let's go back and forth with ideas with ChatGPT here. Let me start a new chat, and let's say I am making a game that is supposed to show the player. And I think this is a really good way of using ChatGPT, by the way. It was like going back and forth on ideas, and maybe it helps. Sometimes it helps you look in certain ways that I'm not looking. At least for me, as like an entry level developer, it helps me a lot. Um, Obviously, I know there's like a whole stigma around like, oh, using ChatGPT all the time for like, especially for code and stuff like that. Which, I mean, I understand. Um, but I also think that I don't. I also think that it's AI right now is really more a tool than anything. The reality is, I don't think AI can do stuff on its own yet. I think we've seen that with ChatGPT getting a bunch of things wrong. I think we've seen that with other technologies like Devin, for example, that there are videos on. Like I was watching, I saw I saw like a clip from Prime Time, right? He's streaming right now. Pretty cool. Um, Definitely subscribe to him. I've started watching his videos more lately, but essentially, where is it here? Here we go. He has this video right here, which, if I'm not wrong, I haven't watched this entire video. I think I've seen a clip. But if I'm not wrong, in this video, he tries to use Devin, and I think he spends like 500 bucks, and it basically does jack shit, right? That's basically what happens. Um, so, I don't know. I don't think AI is like really at the point where it can just do everything for you. However, I do see the point of like, oh, um, AI is making people not be able to do like basic programming things, and that does make sense, right? That is just like I've seen it firsthand. Like I just completed my bachelor's degree in CS, and I saw multiple people that like barely knew how to do like any array structures or anything. And for some time, I was one of those people, right? I'm not gonna sit here and lie and think like, oh no, I'm really good. I was like better. No, I'm not. Like, so uh, that's one of the things that um, I understand about AI. But regardless, I think for this, it's still worth worth doing, worth using for, right? So okay, so let's go back to this. So I'm making a game that's supposed to show the player how it feels like to have ADHD. um, I do have some ideas for the game. um, However, for the game that are below. I need some help with either expanding my ideas or um, or adding new ideas that can really show the player what it is like to have ADHD, right? Here are my current notes, right? And then we're just gonna copy this, and then we're gonna do this, and then let's see what it says, right? And then yeah, so like I was saying, I think for this, ChatGPT is a really good tool. I did use this. I did do a lot of this in my previous projects, where I would basically. I don't think I have it here anymore in my conversations, and I don't have like. I don't have the premium anymore as well. So, yeah. Anyway, but as you can see, I've used it quite a bit, and I think it should be used, right? But yeah, but essentially, what I've done in my previous projects is like I had this project where I was basically working with like digital mixers, right? So, digital, or actually, let me just M32. Amida's M32, right? So I was working with, I made a desktop application for this, to control this device wirelessly. And essentially what it was, so these things right here, essentially what they are, is that when you go to a live show, I don't know if it's gonna show, no, of course there's no pictures of using it at a live show. But when you go to a live show, actually I can show you on LinkedIn. When you go to a live show, these things are what controls all of the data. Oh, that's kind of cute. All of the audio going on. So let's say you go to Coachella or something, right? This is always the example I like to use when I'm talking to people about this project that I did. You go to Coachella and see, like this is like those guys in the background doing a bunch of like buttons and stuff. That's basically what this is. I've done this before. So something like this, right? So let's say you're at this concert right here, right? These guys, they are controlling all of the audio that goes on for the band, for the singer. So that means the singers, that means the guitars, the bass, whatever, right? For everything. And essentially what you have to do a lot of times, I don't know if you can see this, but you see this graph right here. So there's a bunch of graphs like these on these consoles, right? So they call them consoles. And on these consoles, what you have to do is you have to EQ the sound, right? So basically what that means is that, so PQ graph, right? So in these graphs, let me see if I can find a, yeah, this one's not bad. I've used this one before. So in these graphs, you can see there's like low end, there's like core vocals, box region, mid range, sibilance, air, whatever, right? So there's like basically there's low end, mid end, high end. That's at the simplest, and at and at others levels you have like low, mid, then you'll have like some sort of high, mid, high, stuff like that, right? Essentially. And you have to like manually change these around at specific frequencies, and there's like 20,000 frequencies, right? Obviously, once you have a certain amount of knowledge about this, you can essentially you kind of know where to go, right? So like for example here there's like different parts. So like for example, when someone's voice sounds really nasally, like their voice kind of sounds like this or something like that, right? You know that there you have to either increase or decrease or whatever it may be. And essentially what my app did is it made this it made this that these like live audio engineers do every day. It did it automatically, right? And the way that I did that is I like kind of detected the data, like where the live audio was coming in, and I either like increased or decreased based on how much uh, decibels, right? Like decibels is the level of sound. Decibels are coming in each frequency, and then I would like increase it or decrease it, right? So basically that's it. So for this project, what I was saying before is that for this project, I did use a lot of ChatGPT to give me like, okay, how am I gonna make this system work? Like, how am I gonna make like a custom? Because I had to make like a custom algorithm because there was nothing like this beforehand, right? So I had to make something completely new. How would I make it so that when the person is talking up front, it knows where to increase or decrease, right? And like it kind of helped me through that, and it helped me like discover what to do, right? But let's go back to here. Let's see what it's been talking about. So expanded gameplay ideas, right? So dynamic shifts in focus. Your game can randomly shift mechanics or objective mid-task to simulate the unpredictability of ADHD, right? That's what's kind of what we were talking about before, so that's pretty cool. So for example, while sorting objects in one minigame, a sudden noise prompts a quick reaction game. Boom, right? That's great. That's kind of something what I want, right? So a notification like pop-up distracts the player, forcing them to choose between addressing it or continuing the current task. Cool. Introduce sensory overload mechanics. This is a great idea. Bright visuals, layered sounds, or text that become harder to read under stress, right? So this under stress is a good idea. And this could mean that like, oh, the more the maybe the more the counter goes down, the more like quote unquote stress that you get. So the harder, so and then you go into sensory overload, right? I think that would be pretty cool, right? So let's write something like that down, right? So let's where was it here? So let's copy this. So introduce. Oh, whoops. Let's actually put this on the bottom here. So introduce sensory overload mechanics. Bright visuals, layered sounds, or text that becomes hard to read under stress. This could be that as the counter goes down, right? I think this is a great idea, actually. So memory and time pressure. Include memory-based challenges, also a great mini game, where players need to recall or juggle multiple instructions, but are interrupted by distractions. Great. So like again, going back to the idea of like all the chaos that might be happening, you try to remember what was just like what just came up, and you just basically forgetting because you know you just basically forgetting because there's like so much going on. Like how are you going to be able to focus? Like how are you going to be able to recall what just happened, like when all things are like going on, right? So that's pretty cool. Yeah, I think I'm gonna add this as well. Let me do this real quick. So um so give players no. So let me go back here. These could escalate as a player's interest rate trades and make tax mortality. Yeah, so actually I want to add this instead of this. I want to add it as boom. Hyper focus mode. This is something that I've always also have been thinking about that I kind of want to incorporate. I'm just not 100% sure how to do that yet. Give players rare moments of hyper focus where they can excel at tasks, but at the cost of neglecting other game elements. Ooh, that's a pretty cool idea. So, example, completing a specific minigame flawlessly but losing progress elsewhere because they ignored a secondary task. Oh, yeah. That is very interesting as a hyper focus mode, right? Let's do that. Oop. Okay, hold up. Let me Control Shift V. Let's do that. That is really cool. A cool idea for a hyper focus mode. I'm just gonna put this normal. me just. Okay. Boom, boom. Sorry, I just need to organize this a little bit because I'm starting to get lost with all the different texts. Boom. So, okay, so that's pretty cool. A hyper focus mode. Um, okay. Um, Incorporating player choice. So personalization of distractions. Allow players to choose themes, music, trivia, etc., to tailor their experience to their preferences. Themes would also guide the type of distractions they encounter, e.g., a trivia category might bring up a pop-ups of unrelated trivia questions. Yeah, that's pretty. That's kind of like what we were talking about before. Difficulty scaling. Offer levels of chaos. Mildly distracted, manageable to overwhelmed, intense to cater to a broader audience. Oh yeah, I mean I guess that could be something that we could do. So like if like, but then I mean that is interesting, but I think that would kind of it might defeat the purpose of like showing the player what it's like to have ADHD. But I like the idea of like giving levels of chaos because then it would just basically be like it's saying right here, difficulty scaling. Um, so that's the only thing. Cicadas are brown hours. Okay, yeah. I think that's still a pretty good idea though. So let's actually add this. So let's add this right here. I think this is really pretty interesting, or at least something to consider, right? Again, these are ideas, just ideas for the time, so it doesn't mean that we're gonna do them. Oops. I don't know why this is like bugged out, but weird. Okay. I have to do this or else. There we go. Boom. So difficulty scaling. Okay, let's go to the challenges that it's been talking about. So addressing challenges. So too chaotic. Create an underlying rhythm to the chaos. I think that's pretty good. Like an organized chaos is like my favorite type of chaos, right? Obviously. Use a timer to signal when transitions between mini games will occur, helping players anticipate change. Um, hmm. Slowly increase the chaos rather than overwhelming players from the start. I think that this is definitely a good idea. So slowly increase the chaos rather than overwhelming players from the start. I think this is what I want to do, but based on their attention span, right? So the lower their attention span, the more chaos it is, pretty much. So just making it worse overall. But the higher their attention span, maybe the less chaos, and the just kind of like one thing goes into another. Um, so let me let me just change this real quick. There we go. Hmm. Yeah, I think this right here is a good idea. My problem with this, to use a timer to signal when transitions between minigames will occur, is that you don't really expect to have random things going on in your mind. Even, I feel like, even after like years of having like this like scatterbrain, um, it still feels like it still feels like you never know what's gonna come up, right? It's almost like I don't know if like other people can relate to this, but it's almost like when you wake up and you just wake up with a random song in your head. And it's just like, why did I remember this song? There's no way to like know that. Like, how are you gonna remember? Like, um, how are you gonna realistically anticipate you waking up and remembering that specific song? Like, it doesn't make sense, right? So that's my only problem, and that's kind of how it feels like. Even after years of like let's say having ADHD, you're never gonna really anticipate what song is gonna come up next in your head, right? Like right now, let's say for example, I could have, I don't know, I could have some old ass song playing in my head. Like this morning, I was remember this like old Brazilian meme song from like early 2000s. I was like, how how does that come about? Like why is this information important to me that I'm remembering it, right? And yeah, I mean it just happens. Um yeah, anyway, but use a timer to signal. So, but the good thing about this though is that this could give a sense of impending doom, which I think is really good, right? So, impending doom is like kind of a concept that's pretty interesting. So the sense of impending doom is a feeling that something tragic or life-threatening is about to happen, often linked to psychological conditions. Da, 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 da. So this is like the the psychiatry uh, definition of it, right? But my idea is like the impending doom would be like, oh my god, like if I gotta keep going because you know it's gonna get harder and harder every time, right? Um, so and I do think that's interesting, but I think it still is going to defeat the purpose of of like the randomness to it, right? I think there still has to be a randomness to it because that really is that really does make sense with ADHD. It's just a lot of randomness at times, right? You just think of random stuff randomly, right? So yeah, so I think I would rather have like instead of like using a timer to like signal them and for them to anticipate the change, I would rather do like a percentage of like, oh, there's this amount of chance that like some sort of chaos is gonna pop up or something like that, and then those percentage points go up as the attention span goes down, right? I think that would be more interesting actually. um but yeah, but this is still really good, right? So increase the slowly increase the chaos rather than overwhelming players from the start, right? Um, so content rights. Usually, so what does it say about content rights? Usually, use procedurally generated music, trivia, or visuals instead of copyrighted material. Yep, that's pretty fair. Collaborate with independent artists. Okay, this is like, whatever. Sure. Um, you could. There's always like free to use like music online, right? Like NCS was a thing for a while, right? So no copyright music, right? Again, this is just considering if we decide to add this game to Steam or something, right? So if we're saying like, oh no, we really like, I think the game is a really good idea. I really want to like add it to Steam, especially to give it like an extra in terms of like, oh, this project is really something, right? But yeah, but I mean, you know, NCS is a thing, right? Like people use this. Again, now so it's still copyright free music for creators. That's, I mean, interesting. I download others. Yeah, I mean, I still don't know. Yeah, so there's probably still some limitations even on music from channels like NCS, but I'm pretty sure we can find something. I do want to make it like I do think it's interesting to make it so that and this adds to like the chaos element to it, so that maybe the more attention span you have, the more chill the music is, right? But the less attention span you have, the more hectic the music is, right? So I like, so breakcore is something that a lot of people with ADHD listen to, and I think it's pretty interesting. Weirdly, I like it for some reason. Certain ones, not all of them, but I think it's
This is a journey
pretty
into
interesting.
sound. A journey which along the way will bring to you new color, new
Right, so
dimension,
this is
new value,
breakcore, right? So let's just
and a new experience. Stereophonic sound. So our journey takes us into the field of music.
4, 3, 2, 1.
I'm Razor CJ, and this is my life set. And this is sounds like. Hello, I'm Razor CJ, and this is my life set. and this is sounds like.
It's just chaos, right? And I think this would be a great genre of music to play when you're going into like our sensory overload that we were talking about, right? Versus like and I kind of want to keep it to like electronic music for the game. We could do other stuff as well. Doesn't really matter. But we could do like something I like to listen to is like um lo-fi house, right? Or lo-fi hip hop is pretty cool too, right? I like this. These playlists are. I've listened to these so much. So these are pretty cool. Um, right? This would be kind of like the chill part of it, and then it would like go up in intensity as like the sensory overload increases. Um, but yeah, oh yeah, sensory overload could be a bar, right? So you could do like a introduce sensory overload mechanics. It could be a so let's write here could be a bar that increases from 0% to 100%, right? And then maybe even like a question mark percent, like it's just too insane. That'd be pretty cool. Yeah. So yeah, I think that's pretty cool. So let's kind of write this like this music thing down. I think music is, at least for me, is something that like makes a big difference in like everything I do, right? So music could be electronic related throughout the game, increasing in intensity as the sensory overload bar, a loot box system or a gotcha game. Yeah, actually, it that could be a good idea too, because that actually kind of hits. Um, let's see here. Intensity as the sensory overload. Hold up, let me just finish writing this. So, electronic related throughout the game increases the intensity as a sensory overload bar. I don't know, gets in like increases percentage. So yeah, so I know you've kind of I don't know how long you've been watching uh Mr. Hijacker Man, who obviously. Oh yeah, you're mod. Oh shoot. Okay, let's go. I forgot that you're mod. Um, I am thinking about making a game that is based on. I don't know how long you've been watching, but I'm just gonna quick explanation. Thinking about making a game because I haven't done any coding for a while, and I just think it would be pretty cool to make a game. And my idea of the game is like to make the player know what it's like to have ADHD, pretty much. And I have like all these different ideas, and it's essentially I'm kind of trying to like mimic the chaos that ADHD gives in like someone with ADHD, like in their head, right? And that's kind of what I wanna. That's like the general idea, right? And I've just been kind of like I'm just in the idea phase of everything, so I'm just kind of writing stuff down. But yeah. Okay, so let's go on to the next thing that Chat GPT is like giving us here to see what it thinks or whatever, right? So new features to consider, right? So let's think about it. Narrative framework. Tie the mini games to a story or daily routine. Eh, maybe. Not really. I don't know if that's I don't know. Like navigating a workday, completing homework, or preparing for an event. Use this framework to contextualize tasks and highlight how ADHD impacts daily life. I mean, it makes sense in the context of ADHD, not that much in the context of the game. Impact of choice. Introduce branching outcomes based on how well players manage their attention span. This is, to me, sick. This is a sick thing to do to me. I think this would be pretty cool. Now, I'm pretty sure branching outcomes is really hard to do. So, I'm not sure what exactly I should do with this. But, um, but, um, yeah, but it's definitely something to consider. Use this framework to contextualize tasks. Oh, whoops, that's the one above. But outcomes missing key objectives might lead to humorous or frustrating results, e.g., burning food because you forgot you were cooking. Yeah, I think that could be like I don't know. Yeah, that is interesting, but I don't know if for the scope of this this game project if I would go about this. Like if I would do this. Hold up. Um, Sorry, someone was just messaging me. Okay, going back to it. So, educational moments include brief option explains ADHD traits after certain gameplay segments to foster empathy and understanding. I don't really care about this to be honest. Multiplayer twist. So this is what we're kind of trying to talk about before. Like, if I were to incorporate, I wanted to make it mainly single player just for like ease, like to make it easy enough to basically um, just to make the game. But I'm not really sure how it would incorporate like a multiplayer aspect of it. So let's see what it says in terms of like multiplayer aspects, right? So if you go beyond single player, try a mode where one player simulates ADHD while another tries to understand or assist, encouraging teamwork and empathy. It's all right. That's all right. I mean, it's all right. Uh, Progressive achievement system. Achievement system would be probably pretty cool. Reward players not for just completing tasks, but also for learning to adapt to the chaos, e.g., identifying patterns and distractions, managing time effectively. This is a pretty cool idea, I think, because I think giving achievements would be pretty cool because it'll go into like the dopamine hit aspect of the of like ADHD or whatever, right? So I think this is a pretty good idea, right? So let me just add this real quick. Yeah, yeah. I think this is pretty sick. Um, so, because the thing is, um, what? But yeah. Um, yeah, let's see here. But yeah, that's essentially so that's what I guess what ChatGPT has to say about it. So yeah, I guess this is like kind of where we're at right now. So let's just kind of like circle back. So essentially, right, we have our game that's supposed to basically mimic the mind of a person with ADHD. The idea for the game is it's gonna have like multiple mini games, But throughout the mini games, you're gonna have like this chaos going on, either of like sound or if like different mini games popping up at the same time, or things just unrelated to what your main objective is, right? So kind of like how we were talking about before. So let me switch here real quick, right? So kind of like, let me bring up the paint. Obviously, always got to bring up the paint. Um, so with this, what we could do, right? So what we were talking about before is like we could have like multiple sounds going on at the same time, right? We have our attention span counter, right? So as our attention span counter goes down, this makes it so like your sensory, so like here we'll have like our sensory overload bar, right? And then as our attention span goes down, our sensory overload keeps going up because that means like more chaos is going to be happening. As more chaos happens, we have our sensory overload, right? That's what we were talking about before in this section right here. So introduce sensory overload mechanics, bright visuals, layered sounds, or text that becomes harder to read under stress, right? And this under stress could be that sensory overload bar, and the higher percentage it gets, the more like quote unquote stress that you have, right? So these could escalate as the player's attention span meter decreases, making tasks more challenging. Could be a bar that increase, and then I just said that could be a bar that increase from 0 to 100%, and maybe even like you could add some like a different element to it, which is like a question mark percent or something like that. It just go completely insane, makes the game like unplayable or something, right? Yeah, I think that would be pretty interesting. But yeah, and then we have that. And then as the sensory overload bar goes up, we have a bunch of different distractions keep going on. More chaos keeps going on. We have like the music changes like we were talking about before, right? We could have like the thing that I was saying, which is right, like changing between some kind of music like this to some crazy music like we were talking about the breakcore, like something like this. Which Which, like, just imagine listening to this while a bunch of stuff is going on in the game at the same time. You can like, let's say it's a memory game, and you can barely focus on remembering what the last thing was, and then it's just this shit. I think that's great. I think that's amazing. I think that is what we want to do right now. But yeah, yeah, I think that's a pretty good. At least I think it's a pretty good idea. It's something that I would like to play honestly, because I think it'll be really hectic, and I think it's par for the course or something, right? So yeah, and I guess there should be a way for you to win. Now that we haven't discussed yet. So like we were saying before that we want one of the possibly one of the genres of the game to be roguelike. And the way we could do that is once your attention span goes to 0, then you basically just lose and you got to restart, right? But I really got to think about like how I'm going to make the game like for you to win in the game, right? Like I don't know. Obviously, there's gonna be things throughout the game. Like if you get things right or if you win, it might increase your attention span and give you dopamine hits somehow. Like I don't know. You keep getting achievements, or you keep getting like things on the screen that pop up like, oh, you got it right or whatever, da da da, right? And then you can go into like a hyper focus mode, like we were talking about before. So give players rare moments of hyper focus where they can excel at tasks, but at the cost of neglecting other game elements. So example is completing a specific minigame flawlessly, but losing progress elsewhere because they ignored a secondary task. Right. So we could do something like that. So maybe, right? Maybe the like the so something that I'm thinking about right now is something that we could do is possibly when we're at the middle of our like sensory overload bar. So like let's say between 30 to or not 30, like let's say between 40 to 60% ish. That's like where the most normal the game is. There'll still be some distractions, but just not as much as when we're with attention span low or when we are in the hyper focus mode. Maybe something like that. I want to make the hyper focus mode a way where like there is no either there is no distractions or there are distractions but they're kind of like blurred, right? Like there are distractions but going on, but you can kind of like ignore them or you can see through them in a way where you could play the main objective of the game, right? That could be pretty interesting. But it could also make it so that hyperfocus should be. I think it should definitely be like a limit. So let's say, oh, you've entered hyperfocus. That for the next 10 seconds you can focus on the main task, right? And then there can be a countdown, right? So let's say limited time. All right, let's say like 10 seconds, right? Or something like that. But because you're not dealing, like let's say because you're not dealing with the different like the different secondary tasks or like the other stuff that's really hectic, then maybe we could do it in a way where like it's increasing your sensory overload bar and you're getting more like randomness or chaos, but only when you exit the hyperfocus is that only when you exit the hyperfocus do you get all of that together. So yeah, so I think that's a good idea. So let's kind of try to put this in words, right? So hyperfocus mode, limited time, 10 seconds, give them against other tasks. But yeah, so we'll do this, and then we'll say completing a specific mini game flawlessly, but losing progress elsewhere. So flawlessly, but actually, so it has, but the cost of neglecting other game elements. Example is the other is the distractions. Right, is the distractions, and we can say that if or while hyper focus is activated, the distractions are there, but they do not maybe they just don't they do not what is the word? I mean, the distractions are there, but they do not distract. I don't know. They can be blurred or see-through, right? But the more things you get right in the mini games, the more the sensory overload bar goes up. So this could be, so it could be that it's backwards on this, right? So let's say that once you start getting things more and more right during hyper focus, your sensory overload is gonna go up, but you don't really feel anything because you don't really feel anything because it's protected by the hyperfocus mode, right? Um, and then we'll say when hyperfocus mode ends, um, when the hyperfocus mode ends, um, you get all the distractions of that current level of the SO bar. Yeah. Yeah, so something like that. I think that would be pretty interesting. So yeah, I think this is where we're gonna stop today. I might come back a little bit later just so we can keep working on this, or we might do some gaming later just to chill out a little bit. But yeah, I guess let me know what you guys think. Let me know if you have any other ideas. Let me know if you have like different names for the game as well, because I am open to other ideas for like name wise, right? So, yeah. Um, Thanks for being a part of the stream for the people that did. Um, and yeah, I guess till next time.